So we got an eclipse in Libra, a lunar eclipse coming right up. Wow, isn't it been a little bit wild for folks out there? I think, I've seen some people I've talked to have a little bit of a different energy. It's a little bit easier this time. I think in general, though, there's been a kind of an intensity consistent, and now we're getting closer and closer and closer, and it's ramping up. I would encourage you to just be watchful of any kind of intense emotional, mental, physical movement in your life where things kind of feel out of control, things kind of are running away from you. These are themes that we like to think about with eclipse energy, that reality sort of runs away from us. I was just reading the James Herschel Holden History of Horoscopic Astrology. Love that text, by the way. It's a foundation text. Anybody studying out there, get that. Keep it by your bedside because you can read about the history of astrology there all throughout its history. But in the very early parts of the book, he describes the Babylonian kings and these Babylonian astrologers, very early Babylonian astrologers, about 500 BC. There's a cuneiform, I guess, tablet or whatever the tablets are. And in it says, look, hey, king, I'm going to advise you when this lunar eclipse comes, that's when we want you to be removed from society and we'll send the replacement. So it's the lunar eclipse, actually, where we have a historical record of the king being replaced during the eclipse because of the intensity of the eclipses. This is the other aspect, rather, of eclipses, is that they've been important since the beginning of astrology. When the Hellenistic tradition emerges around 00, it's a mix of three schools. It's a mix of Greco philosophy, it's a mix of Egyptian astrology, and it's a mix of Babylonian, largely. But the Babylonians gave us the zodiac and this idea of eclipses being insane. And so as we prepare for this lunar eclipse, we're connected deeply to our tradition when we understand the intensity and importance of eclipses. It goes all the way back, all the way back. All right, that's enough for this one, man. Let me just eat a But let's come in now to another layer here of this eclipse symbolism. Just like any eclipse chart, we have to analyze and examine the symbolism of the sign where the eclipse is happening. And I think it's important before we do that, actually, to come check out a few of the dates of this eclipse cycle. We know that the first eclipse in Libra was a solar eclipse in Libra, I believe 15 October 2023. And so we're dealing with intensities from October 2023. I mean, what happened in October 2023 from the mundane perspective? October 7th and the events around that and the war in Palestine, Israel. I am certainly interested in that re-emerging front and center. We know that there is famine happening right now in Rafah and in Gaza. Hearts, minds, prayers, all of that needs to go to the people of Gaza and the people of Rafah. So that's for sure going on. Other things from October, just think about your own life. The true lunar nodes entered Libra and Aries in July 2023. Then the first eclipse after that was in October 2023. This eclipse season is the first that has two eclipses in the Aries-Libra axis. So we have this axis greatly accentuated, and it's the only eclipse season this whole cycle that will have that. This eclipse cycle ends in 2025 January. The true lunar nodes leave. The last eclipse in Libra is October 2024, a solar eclipse, and then the final eclipse in the axis is a solar eclipse in Aries in March. So those are the windows of activation for all of this upheaval. The other layer is that we're dealing with cardinal signs. Libra and Aries are cardinal signs. Here, turn it off. What's up? What is Libra? It's agreements with people. It's a so-called masculine sign. It's an air sign, which means it's Mercury. It's ruled by Venus. It's ruled by Saturn, Mercury, and Venus as the three whole sign rulers. We're talking about agreements to structure our outer world activity, trying to bring harmony with other people through the written word and through longer term planning. I mean, this is the nature of Libra. So when you have eclipse corruption, another favorite word of mine for eclipses is corruption. I know that has a little bit of a negative connotation, but corruption can simply just mean the normal flow gets broken, right? We have to then deal with unanticipated events that emerge around these themes. And so I think we could see a lot of breakage around structural dynamics between relational groupings, or the commitments we made with others are undergoing reconfiguration and reformation, eclipse style, which can be intense and can be faded and can feel out of control. Again, to go back to that. And then the last thing I want to say is that if you look at this eclipse chart, where are the planets? Let's do a little bit of a derived houses chart from Libra. You have the moon in Libra, but where are these other planets? They're in the dark houses, mostly. The Sun and Mercury are in Aries, yes, but Mercury's, I think it's definitely in its retrograde shadow by this time. Mercury's about to fully retrograde there. We're gonna be dealing with blocks and delays and ongoing issues around the Mercurial. You have Jupiter in Taurus, the 8th from Libra, and those are the material undergirdment of the structures of these relational commitments. And then you have all the Pisces stuff, 6th from Libra. 6th house, 8th house. What is it? The structural unseen undergirdment of all of this stuff. These are like the things that are boiling under the surface. The fault lines of these relational dynamics, I think, are going to be huge here. So the relational dynamics then have to confront the Libran relational agreements, these formal agreements we've made. Legalistic even would be a key word. That's the Mercury. Those are confronting the true nature of the materiality. That is to say, who gets what with these agreements. That's Jupiter in the 8th. People might be renegotiating like, hey, that deal I made, I can make a better deal, or that maybe wasn't fair. I want to go back to the negotiating table to get a new deal, right? That would be the nature of this kind of eclipse change, faded change, accelerated change around agreements and shared assets. And then what's the Piscean? It's the feeling. It is the kind of the truth of things that we just feel into. And that's happening in the 6th house of labor. That's happening in the 6th house of health and wellness. And so I think just to kind of bring it all together here, like these relational renegotiations are going to be about the shared materiality and what kind of feels right around our health and wellness and labor. I mean, these could be things like, the day-to-day doesn't quite feel good. It feels off. It feels like it needs to be restructured. And we don't really need to even articulate why. This is the Piscean. It's just, I know it feels dark and something's got to change, right? This is the kind of energy I think people will bring into these dynamics, like this just doesn't feel right. It's got to change. And that's that 6th house Pisces pileup, Mars, Venus, Saturn, all in Pisces. 6th from the lunar eclipse. Take care of yourself. The final thing I would always say with eclipses is pray, meditate, go to God. My favorite types of prayer are supplication from a place of humility. You say, universe, show me, I don't know. These eclipse activations are triggering this stuff in my chart. Look at your chart. I mean, your chart has a whole different story than the one I've just told here, but you'll say, universe, guide me and show me. I need your help right now. And this is the kind of Vedic model where it's very spiritualized, the eclipse energies. Japa they do, mantra. I think from more of a Western tradition, which I am raised out of, we pray. We say, universe, God, help me, show me, and then be led, and finally, and I'm going to talk more about this in a little short monthly video for April, but basically Mercury's not going to station direct until 25 April after these two eclipses. And it's 30 April and 29 April where Mars enters Aries and Venus enters Taurus, respectively, UTC. I think it's those dates. But at that end of April, it's kind of go time, full speed ahead. Right now, it's not that at all. It's pray, go spiritual, let Mercury retrograde complete, and see what comes for you out from these eclipse corruptions that we're about to go through. We get put back together at the end of April and into May when Mars and Venus both get great dignity in the transiting sky. So take care out there. Have a great one. I'll talk to you really soon. Peace.